Good evening, everyone. I'm Sally Cragen. I'm the Chair of City Property. It is Tuesday, January 24th at 6:30 p.m. 2023. Our City Property Committee will be called to order. We are at 718 Main Street in one of the conference buildings. This is a hybrid meeting, so some of us are here in person, others are watching remotely. And we are also joined by City Solicitor Vincent Pusateri. The first order of business in our on our agenda is going to be, let me read this. Ordered that whereas the city has certain easement rights for pole lines or as more fully described in an unrecorded plan dated 1968 and revised in 1969, prepared by the City of Fitchburg Department of Public Works, as indicated in deed in Worcester North Registry of Deeds Book 1042, page 522, that no longer exist, but the easement is encumbering a portion of property owned by Signco Realty Trust and dated January 22nd, 2004. Whereas the city intends to release, relinquish, and terminate any and all rights that it has or may have reserved in the deed referenced above. Whereas Signco Realty Trust hereby accepts and consents to such release, relinquishment of termination by the City of Fitchburg. Whereas both parties agree that any and all rights of the city and to the easement located over, upon, and across the property owned by Signco are terminated and shall no longer be in further force and effect. Now, therefore, it is ordered that the Honorable Mayor Stephen L. DiNatale be hereby authorized for and on behalf of the City of Fitchburg to execute and deliver any and all documents and to take any and all acts necessary, convenient, and helpful to facilitate and execute the release and termination of easement rights as attached or in form substantially similar thereto. And that will do it for agenda item 277-22. Note for the record that President of City Council Anthony Zarella has joined us as well. Welcome, Anthony. And
I apologize, I was next door by mistake.
That's okay. We are also joined by City Solicitor Vincent Pusateri, who will be speaking on this matter as it does involve property and the City of Fitchburg. So I would turn the floor over to.
Okay, thank you so much. So I did bring with me a couple of packets which have the deed, some language regarding the property, and then most importantly, a picture, which I do better with. And we have that on the screen. Right. So as you can see, this is part of a large, this would be taking a step back. This property is located next door to the Sandpit lot. The Sandpit lot is owned by the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority. And there is a plan to sell that lot to a third party. A portion of the Moss Arthur lot is going to be involved in that transaction. And in order to make this a viable use that they want to put the property to, they want us to release the pole and line easement that's there, depicted between Lula or Crawford Street, depending upon what you want to call it. And what was going to be a secondary settling tanks and other sewer service area towards the rear of the property. We conferred with the Department of DPW. We conferred with, actually the airport was in the area, so we just want to make sure there was no possible need for a line to go through there. I conferred with Director Murphy of the Planning Department, and we're all in agreement that there is no need for the city to maintain this easement for a utility line and a utility pole that was intended to service a use that we never put the property to use. And so therefore, we would recommend that the city release this easement, because there's a larger benefit to the city if we're able to work with the redevelopment authority and put the full transaction together. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Councilor Squillia?
So this seems very straightforward to me, and I am in full support, but I have one question on this, and that was, is the city getting any monetary, getting any money for this giving up of the easement to the property owner, because this will benefit their property?
No, we haven't asked for that. I think it's just really more of a, let's work together to get the project with the sand pit lot put together, but if you
And,
want me to try to muck the whole thing up, I'll put a demand out for it.
and, you know, by allowing this easement to be rescinded and allowing development to continue, that will benefit the city in the long run.
That's our goal.
Okay,
That
thanks.
is our goal. Council.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Zarella, followed by Counselor Van Hazinga.
Thank you. Yeah, I also think this is kind of a no-brainer. I'd just like to also point out that because we're not using the easement for anything and have no reasonable possibility of using it in the near future, the fair market value of the easement would be pretty close to zero, regardless. And though I haven't looked into extinction of easements for quite some time, I imagine that if we were to make them go about this the hard way, which would be foolish of us, they could probably eventually get the easement extinguished by the fact that we're using it anyway. So it seems like, you know, this should be pretty straightforward.
Okay, Counselor Van Hazinga.
Yeah, as previously mentioned at the end of Councilor Squalia's statement, the principal benefit is to allow the development of this property, this 300,000 plus square foot facility that will benefit the city greatly in terms of jobs for residents and also property taxes. And this area is of concern because in evaluating the proposed plan, there's some issues with sightlines there, the bridge and the corner. So the ability for the developer to move that entrance to the site over is a primary benefit of public safety as well. For the intersection there.
Okay, and I will take notes for the purpose of minutes, and someone else can raise their hand for next meeting. Okay, sounds good. Hold on. Do you have a question for the group? Okay, you go ahead, speak up so we can all hear.
My question to him, I'll go along with the easement right away here, but I want to know if they're gonna put a right of way in for Amazon to go through that property.
There's been a lot of discussion about that, and it's not clear to me that it can ultimately happen for a number of reasons. So
It can't happen or will not.
I'm not exactly sure that they will be able to do it. So I don't want to leave you with any promise, Counselor, that there's definitely going to be a road installed there for Amazon. And I would like to leave it at that.
Let's see what's it does.
Oh, okay, all right. Counselor Zarella.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in response to that, I'd just like to point out that that would ultimately be a negotiation between two private parties. We only own the easement over this property, which is a utility easement, not an access easement. So we have really no role in deciding whether they grant an easement to Amazon or not. That's for their lawyers and Amazon's lawyers to negotiate.
Well, they need no, Mike, you speak here.
No, go ahead, same time.
They, in response to the council to my left, they actually they want that land. And we have a card. And it's a good card. And I believe that we need a road going to Amazon that way, because it's gonna be chaos on the other end, on Interville Road. So I think the city should use the card and fight for us to get a road. Because council across the aisle said they want the right to move the access road from near the bridge up further, which I agree, because I've been there. So my only concern is for Interville Road and Bemis Road. And I think they should be working with us to resolve that, because they can use the banks right up against the railroad and come around.
So I'm just gonna jump in here and say that it is really not the purview of city property to be making requests of the city planning department and Department of Public Works that would have sizable financials attached to them. I think that these are conversations best had ex cathedra, and that we really need to be looking at what we have in front of us, which is the property that we are relinquishing an easement for. But may I please remind everyone, we are not relinquishing everything. We are retaining our stormwater and sewer infrastructure
On the sand lot.
on the sand lot, which is a substantial win in my view. So, Councillor Zarella, followed by Councillor Van Hazinga, and then I think we'll move on. But
So I would agree this probably wouldn't fall under city property regardless. I'll also say that in most circumstances, I'm not really comfortable with the city playing hardball like that with a party that hasn't been causing us trouble or, there are times to play hardball, but with a cooperative developer is not really the time for that. And also, as I said, if they really wanted to, they could probably force the issue anyway, would just be making them do it the hard way and making an enemy that we don't need to make. Lastly, I'll just say, I think decisions about the negotiating posture of the city are really executive rather than legislative in nature. That I could envision rare circumstances where it would be appropriate for the council to intervene in something like that, but generally it's not our place to set the city's posture in ongoing negotiations. That's just not the function of our branch.
I couldn't agree more. Councillor Van Hazinga.
I just wanted to reinforce that the need for the connection there between the Amazon facility and Crawford Street has been brought up in great depth during the planning review process. And it's been expressed as a concern in the city traffic at Amazon, the potential for relief there. The applicant has developed plans that show that it may be possible, but there's the big stumbling block that those two parcels don't abut. There is a separate parcel in between that is under different ownership. So the developer does not own a connecting strip of land on which a road can be built. And in this parcel in between is a former dump. So there are lots of complications to developing it. So it's been expressed that this would be a great long-term goal, that if we could surmount these obstacles and make it happen. We've tried to design the plans and approve plans that account for this possibility in the future, but it's not something we can actually do right now because we do not control these two parcels. They don't abut. There's a separate parcel in between. So there's much more involved into making this happen than we have presently at our disposal.
Thank you.
Madam, may I say one thing? Let me explain it to you. Across the street, we leased it out to AKS. What they did is they capped it. There was all hazardous waste in there. You put in a road and you're capping it. You're not disturbing nothing. I know that much about the environment too. So it's really not that much. When I talked to Tom Ash at the time, I thought I was under the impression that the developer for Simon and the developer here were working together to get that piece of land. So maybe we can put a road in. And hoping that we can get a road in. Now, my goal is this. I'm looking at the fact of the matter that we're trying to alleviate a problem down in that ward. In that area, Interborough Road, we all seem to forget because we're not gonna live there. That they're gonna get bombarded with traffic. And it's great that I want development, I do want development. But I also gotta think of the residents and the taxpayers that live in that area. There's gonna have trucks and cars going through their neighborhood day in and day out. And it's a nightmare as it is right now. I drive down that road every day. It's a nightmare. And Amazon's not even in there yet. So all I ask is for the city to work hard, because we do have an ace in the hole. We have the cards, and we need them and they need us. And if we just stay here, go on your merry way, go ahead and do it, it's okay with me. And not worry about down here, then we're wrong. In my opinion, we're wrong. We should be trying to work together to resolve the issue of the heavy traffic. Nobody knows exactly the count. Has there been a count? They actually think, I don't remember them saying about a count.
So point of order, we're not discussing traffic. We are discussing the disposition of a piece of property. And I think we've heard from everyone. So now it is time to put it to a vote. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve 277-22 or to recommend it.
Okay, so,
Second.
okay, and the second is, okay, all in favor?
I,
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? No. Okay, motion passes. Thank you so much for coming in and explaining.
Thank you for letting me hear your opinions about the project.
we're never shy.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, okay, we are now moving on to a petition having to do with renaming. So petition 282-22. We humbly request that the City Council of Fitchburg consider our petition to honor the late Henry F. McKenna of 97 Pleasant Street, Fitchburg, by naming the intersection of Spring, Pleasant, Blossom, and J Streets Henry McKenna Square, in order to honor a faithful son of Fitchburg and his contributions to our community through both his decorated valor in key battles of World War II and through his addictions counseling work and co-founding of local meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I believe we have a family member here to speak on the behalf of this petition. Who do we have the pleasure of meeting?
Greetings, please let me know if you can hear me all right.
Yep.
Yes, I'm Jonah. Thank you very much for having me with you tonight.
We're glad to have you here. Please tell us a little bit. And is Henry your father?
Grandfather.
Grandfather, okay. I wasn't able to pull up his obit. My uncle George Marajanian wrote the obituaries for the Sentinel for many years. But even in his, I'm not sure when your grandfather passed on, but we weren't able to obtain the obit to learn more. So perhaps you could tell us about Henry, or was he known as Harry?
That's right, Harry. Well, he was born in Fitchburg on South Street in 1919. He passed away in the late 1980s. So it's been quite a while. He was spent most of his whole life in Fitchburg, except for the war years.
And Councilor Squelia has pulled up the ancestry.com. Okay, and so is this particular part of our geography of special interest, or somewhere near where he lived? Why this particular? Because this is an interesting intersection with 5 streets, and as Councilor Van Huizinga mentioned, it's definitely got some altitude to it.
I think it's an amazing neighborhood. I grew up there, spent most of my life there, and my grandfather lived there, long before I was born. So that's where the family home was, on the corner of Pleasant and Spring Street.
Yep.
And it is a unique 5-point intersection. It's a very steep hillside, like so many in Fitchburg. I watched it while I was growing up. It went through some good times, some bad times, and some better times as a neighborhood. And it's never had a name to it. It's never had any kind of designation. My grandfather was not the kind of guy to ever want to ask anyone to name anything after him. Every single year when there was a Veterans Day parade, they would ask him to ride in the car with World War II and Korean vets, and instead he would prefer to just walk down to the parade and watch it himself from the sideline. So he never would have put this petition forward himself, and we thought that we ought to do it for him.
That's wonderful. I'll open it up to our subcommittee members. If you guys have any questions, Councilor Boschman.
I had a question, why is Blossom Street on here? And Blossom Street has no variance there. Let's get Pleasant Street, Spring Street, Academy Street, and J Street. What do we have blossoms?
Maybe they were thinking spring was blossom.
It's
I-
probably just a graphical.
Yeah, I think that's a type, Blossom is mentioned on the petition request, and I think that's just a typographical error. It's Pleasant. It's Spring, Pleasant, J, and then
It's just those three.
it's just those three, okay. Yeah, so I think we probably should amend this, so just removing Blossom.
Motion to amend to remove the reference to Blossom.
Second,
Okay, so motion to amend to remove mention of Blossom, okay.
Sorry about the
Okay,
typo.
Sure, all in favor?
I,
Okay, so that motion passes. Great, anyone have any questions? Counselor Squalia?
yes, so I looked up your grandfather's information and his family history and, because, you know, it's fascinating and I love this intersection. I drive it all the time to go to Longsjo. And so the petition noted his valor or, what's the word? Contributions to the community through decorated valor in key battles of World War II. Could you talk a little bit about his decorated valor and the key battles in World War II?
I'd be happy to. He was awarded a Purple Heart and the Bronze Star. He was involved in the invasion of Normandy at D-Day. He fought at Utah Beach, which was the first beach invaded. It was not as bad of a bloodbath as the Omaha Beach. And after making it through that battle, he immediately went fighting in the hedgerows of Brittany and Normandy. He was personally involved in the liberation of Paris, leading his platoon into the Nazi-occupied territory at the center of Paris. And he was involved in liberating many villages in Belgium, and also was present at the Battle of the Bulge, which was a very long kind of stalemate conflict where he was grievously injured, and that was the end of the war for him. He was medevaced home.
How was he injured?
Well, in the Battle of the Bulge at the time he was there, it was winter, and on a patrol, he stepped on a Nazi landmine that was under snow and probably was not killed because of the cushioning aspect of the snow. But he had a paralyzed leg for the rest of his life. So he actually spent a lot of time at the Walter Reed Army Hospital after that point in 1940, I think it was 1942 or 43.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you so much for that. That's a really remarkable war experience. And please invite us all to the ceremony. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but as someone who does a lot of work and research about about the Civil War, I'm really amazed at the the bravery of the men in Fitchburg, the boys and men who were called to be in pretty much every conflict and who had remarkable experiences. So I hope you all have a written family history of Harry's record, and that's shared with subsequent generations. I think that this is what this brings war home to everyone when they know someone who knows someone who experienced this. So that's some pretty incredible experiences. No, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. We are doing our best to pass it on.
And please share that history with the Fitchburg Historical Society. We do have an extensive World War II collection, but we can always use family histories. We really, really can.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure. Councillor Van Hazinga.
I was just wondering if Mr. McKenna could elaborate a little bit on your grandfather's involvement in addictions counseling and establishing Alcoholics Anonymous meetings in the area.
Sure, I'd be happy to. My grandpa was able to study addictions counseling at Yale University on the GI Bill after he somewhat recovered from his injuries. He had an older brother who had, perished from alcoholism, and he was very interested in finding ways to treat it. One of my grandfather's good friends was Mayor Greenwood, Bob Greenwood of Fitchburg. And together they were able to apply for a Ford Foundation grant to open a treatment center for female alcoholics, which was the first that opened in Massachusetts and I think in the whole Northeast. But mostly what he did, what Harry did was found and co-found chapters of AA across northern Worcester County. And I do recall that when his funeral took place, there were many strangers who showed up to it and told us that he had been influential in sponsoring them and encouraging them through their recovery.
Well, that is just wonderful. And we are in his debt. Counselor Zarilla.
Yeah, your grandfather sounds like quite an amazing man and definitely someone who gave a lot to his country and his community. I think this would be an excellent way to honor him, particularly if either through the city or through private foundations or the Historical Society, we could get some kind of small plinth or plaque just summing up this extraordinary life for people who see his name on the intersection and wonder who he was. Because we've gotten to hear it straight from you. It would be great if other people had the opportunity to know that. There's as I'm sure the chair can say even more on than I can, there's so much history in Fitchburg that people don't even realize. They don't realize that people from Fitchburg were part of extraordinary events or did things that no one else in the area was doing or had done. It's really it's an extraordinary city with extraordinary people, and I think the more of those people that we can bring to the attention of the public, the better.
Agreed. Thank you.
I agree. And if you would be able to maybe send a photograph of Harry during his war years, if you have it, if you can email all of us with that photograph and then maybe a later year's photo if you have it, that will be useful. We now do have coverage. Anna Griffin covers the city council and school committee for the Sentinel, which I'm very happy to report. I'm sure she will be very interested in doing a story on this event as well. So is that something that your family has that you could email us as a JPEG?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, wonderful.
Make a motion to accept.
All right. Motion to accept the petition and name that square after Henry McKenna. Motion is made, seconded, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. McKenna. Your grandfather has a square.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
after
Wait.
city council.
Oh, yes.
Gotta go to the full city council.
Sorry, I misspoke. But we will.
Well, I appreciate your support very much, councilors, and appreciate being able to speak with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
All right, I think that concludes our meeting. At this point, any,
To adjourn.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting is adjourned at 7 o'clock. Nice. All right, thank you.
Have a good evening.